Wall Street Journal, a US-based publication, has reported that at least 1,000 soldiers killed by Boko Haram insurgents were buried in hidden graveyards in Borno State, most of them without the knowledge of family members. Now, the Defense Headquarters has debunked the reports, which is described as sacrilegious. The Director of Defense Information, Colonel Onyema Nwachukwu, in a statement said the author of that report was uninformed. Well, one of the many reactions to this article is that Atiku Abubakar, former Vice President, I beg your pardon, and presidential candidate of the PDP, says an inquiry should be launched into that report. Well, I still have my guest here and a new guest who has joined us. I have Biodun Showomi. He's a political analyst. Thank you very much for joining us, Biodun.
I'm pleased to be here.
All right, and of course we still have Dotson Alaribibe. He's also a political analyst. Thank you, Dotson, for still staying with us. Let's start with you, Biodun, because you just got here. Looking at that Wall Street Journal report, what was the first reaction you had when you saw that report?
Well, I thought they're doing what our press should be doing in Nigeria. That is what they are trying to do, because the media failed in Nigeria to focus on the issue of the remains of people killed in conflict. Mm-hmm. It's not just about the issue of soldiers killed by Boko Haram or dead people generally. When you look at what happened in Zaria, between which the Kaduna State government investigated, between IJMN or IMN, you know, this Islamic movement of Nigeria, and the military. According to Kaduna State government's panel report, over 350 people were killed and buried in mass grave. And Amnesty says 800 plus, and IMN is claiming over 1,000. So wherein lies the truth? You have at least over 300 people killed, you know, and buried in mass grave, with their relatives not allowed to have, to give the last honor, to pay the last honor to them. So when you move from that conflict and the media refused or did not or failed to highlight, you know, that anomaly, you now see the whole thing building up to the point that gallant soldiers, very brave, courageous soldiers who are giving up their lives, you know, for the safety of members of the public, are also being buried in mass grave with no honor, you know, no last-minute respect from their loved ones. It's quite unfortunate. Nigeria is the only country where you fight a war and there are no body bags. Even though soldiers were going to the front, less soldiers were coming back. It's quite unbelievable.
But who's to be blamed in this instance, especially for the Defense Headquarters, being that there is a modus operandi? There is, I mean, every life is important. Leave nobody behind. Who's supposed to be blamed?
Absolutely.
Is it in their interest to keep this, you know, under wraps? I mean, of course, one would think that maybe that would be in their best interest, but is it really in their best interest to do that?
It's two ways. It's just about misplaced priority. What the military is trying to do, in my view, given this is my own opinion, by suppressing information about casualty in the war with Boko Haram, is one, to first sustain the myth, you know, that Boko Haram has been defeated and they've been decapitated, they're only doing a mop-up. That's the impression we've been given all along. So they needed to sustain that. The second side of it is also not to demoralize existing soldiers. So they need to boost and sustain the morale of the soldiers by ensuring that information about high casualty do not filter out to the public. That is what they're trying to do in terms of managing that. The other side effect of it is this: they're not placing enough priority on what happens to the remains of dead people, which is in Africa, including in international law. You are not allowed to mutilate their bodies. You have to treat them with respect. They should be given the last respect. Their family should have, you know, that last emotional union with them before they are finally buried. The idea of burying soldiers with known relatives and known places of abode, you know, in mass grave should not be allowed. So these are issues which needs to be brought up by the press. The idea of trying to hide under national security, saying that we don't want to demoralize, you know, existing soldiers who are fighting Boko Haram, you know, should not hold. We have heard of soldiers fleeing war fronts. We have heard of soldiers being killed. So there's nothing wrong in bringing back the dead, and then, you know, you see a kind of national resolve to fight Boko Haram. I don't see it demoralizing people. Rather, people would, you know, make up their mind to fight Boko Haram. But we must pay the last respect to the dead. So the Wall Street Journal is right. I think the ball is in the court of the Nigerian media.
Interesting. Dr. He practically answered my second question, because if you are trying not to demoralize the men in the field, then you should do better in equipping them. You should do better in their welfare. We've had severally, in fact, I think it was 2 years ago, where we had wives of these men who were fighting Boko Haram go on a protest of sorts, saying they were abandoned, their husbands were not being taken care of. And we saw a video surface last year, I guess, of soldiers asking the presidency and the defense headquarters to give them arms that can actually match the people that they're fighting. So trying to, you know, hide the number of people, hoping that it would not demoralize their fighters, is that even enough if that were to be an excuse that the army is going with?
I don't think they're hiding numbers not to demoralize, no. That's the way you see it. But my perception is this. You see, Nigeria, the cheapest thing is life. Across board, anywhere you look at it. You see, in the military, look at the days of ECOWAS, when later Ishikola was giving them ramps, then decided carrying crash element of Okada, taking it to the war front for our soldiers. Why? It's all about greed and corruption. Taking crash element of Okada, taking it to go and give a soldier in Liberia, an element that's supposed to be able to stop a bullet, you're giving him crash element that if he falls down, it breaks, you know. It's the same thing now. Look at Rasom Kuti, I mean, he went to war now. I mean, that general, Bekoso, he asks you for equipment to fight. I mean, it's just an endemic problem with Nigeria. We like to do things wrong. We don't do things right. So, like now, I read somewhere that when the payment for the soldiers, right? If you declare them dead, they're going to stop it. So somebody has to take that. So either the commander, in collaboration with my command, I mean, they cannot report anything dead. It's not about demoralizing people. It's because war is about casualties. And you, like you said, I mean, you must give them the last respect. War is about casualty. There's nowhere you go to war that you must not come back with body bags. It's better you come back with body bags than let these guys see the way you're respecting dead body is a morale booster. But when I see that, look at ordinary police station now, the police barracks, sorry, if you die on duty, it doesn't take them 2 days to come and evict the family of that dead policeman for the next person. So the man going to face armed robber will not go with his own mind now because he knows what happened to his comrade 3 days ago. If it happens to him now, maybe the wife just gave birth to one small child, they go to a victim. So you are not.
So there is, what you're saying, there's a general demoralization in the air, because I thought to myself when I went through the Wall Street Journal report, who are the people who bury these dead soldiers in those mass graves? Has to be their comrades.
Yes.
So what message, if this report is anything to go by, this is also a problem that one day would become something bigger, because I'm wondering, if I am made to bury my comrade in a shallow grave that is unmarked, I'm wondering, what am I thinking while I'm doing that? This would also be my fate.
Yes.
So which soldiers are we fighting or combating insurgency? What is their mindset?
It's about mind programming. I can give you an example that a major factor is actually the idea that they need to high casualties. And I'll go back into history because I was even involved in one. If you go back to Maitasini in 1981 in Kano, what happened? The number of people killed because of the outrage, they were quickly buried in mass grave. If you take that down to the IMN one in Zaria, it's exactly the same thing that happened. Now move down to what happened, the clash at Ife involving the Fulani people. We all know the casualty. We know what the police, I think the police admitted up to 35 or something, or 25. But we all know the true figures in hundreds. And then move down to that. It's a deliberate thing. I had engaged the police spokesperson on a national TV, for 1.5 hours on this very issue. It's a deliberate, I'm not discounting corruption. corruption could also be a probable explanation. But I'm saying that there is also this probable explanation that, they need to suppress it. And it's about psychological conditioning of soldiers. When you condition them to say, look, we need to do this, bury them, and then we'll move on. And what they simply do is to rotate the soldiers with a new one. And quite often, you find Nigerian soldiers spending longer than necessary in war front, simply because they don't want information to filter, down to new people coming who are in the barracks. So we have a major problem with the way we are managing, even war in this country. And you see a situation where you need Apache helicopter or you need some helicopter, to pursue rebels, insurgents, and you don't have any around. Before they can deploy the Air Force platform, they've gone. So you don't forget one thing. When the United States came, with the drones and other things, because there's always this problem of internal collusion also. When they came with the intention to flush out the Boko Haram in Sambisa forest, their plans were already shared with.
He made mention of that before you got here. He talked about
which is quite
the fact
unfortunate. So what you see is the way we manage the whole thing is the way we manage death. We have little respect for human beings, human lives. Like he said, I agree with him absolutely. We have little respect for human lives. So what's the issue with a dead body? That's the way they are viewing it. They are ignoring the fact that it is African, to pay respect
to the dead. I think it's worldwide. It's human.
It's worldwide. You see,
it's human to pay.
Just here we celebrate mediocrity. That is all. You see, because look at American soldier now. America is still fighting for remains of bodies from Korean War. Are you following me? They still wanted to return their remains. Yes, they have decayed. They will do forensics. They do DNA. They match this bone to this name. They package it and give it proper and befitting burial. But here, no. You are demoralizing soldiers. If you think you are hiding anything, you want to. It's a revised psychological boost as far as I'm concerned. When you bury, these guys are going to bury their mates. I was reading one yesterday. Say maybe when they went back to the place, they wrote the name in one plastic bottle or something like that to just hang in one man grave. So people are saying this now. These guys are burying themselves. What the next thing is thinking is how to go at war. So if I die, this is how they will do to me. And they go. We have asked about soldiers that were escorted money. 6 of them.
Could that be linked to the rate of desertion in the military?
Because
we
have more than recently, and he made mention of that. Could that also be, because I was about to ask, is there not going to be a long-term blowback? Because in the long run, there will be an effect that might be negative on the service or the army. And are we not thinking about that for those who are perpetrating this?
So if I may add to that, you need to understand one thing. The average Nigerian that joins police or joins army is not going there for Nigeria. It's for employment. Hey, how many people have fought war in Nigeria? After the Civil War, we have office generals in Nigeria. Until the advent of Boko Haram, we have not been seeing combat. So these guys are now seeing combat. Look, the average man is afraid to shoot a gun. The policeman will close his two eyes when he wants to shoot. I'm telling you.
Let's talk about how we react in Nigeria to reports from foreign media. You made an important assertion, even though I fall in that category, of the media not necessarily asking the right questions or trying to probe further to get more information. Now, when Boko Haram started, the numbers were conflicting. So this paper says 12, the other paper says 11. The defense headquarters says no, it was 5. So, and nobody probes further. We just, talk about it and then it dies down, which I agree with you saying that we don't go further. So the Western media tells our stories for us. But the reaction is my question. We've had Amnesty International send reports on our soldiers, our police. Even they've talked, other international organizations have made reports, released reports on Nigeria. We always react negatively, not necessarily taking a look at those reports to see if we can better, deal with the situation from the recommendations of that report. And my question is, why do we always respond negatively to those reports?
Yeah,
just as we have done for this one.
Yeah, there's an air of arrogance, when it comes to people in power in Nigeria. We think Nigeria is the biggest country in Africa. 1 in 5 Africans is a Nigerian, but we forget the fact that that makes no meaning. If you're unable to protect your country, you cannot guarantee your security, including food security. You cannot provide employment for those people. You cannot industrialize your economy. You're big for nothing makes, it makes no sense to anybody. So what you have is Nigerians are full of that arrogance. Don't forget so many years ago, we had a former head of state, when he was the head of state, who said the money is not our problem, it's how to spend it.
General Yakubu Gowon.
Nobody has ever said that in history apart from him. And so you can then imagine from where we're coming from. So with this mindset, and when you look at the personal construct of each political office holders in Nigeria, the layer of that office is the arrogance and the self-belief in the giant of Africa, label which Nigeria has been given. So therefore, every single interpretation or narratives of what happened, factual narratives, of what happens are always met, with resistance, mind resistance. They are mindful of resistance before thinking about it, and that is always the problem. We do not see ourselves as partnering with the rest of the world. We see ourselves as if we are different from the rest of the world. We often comes from a victim psychology viewpoint, rather than looking at issues objectively and say, hang on a minute, what is Dotun trying to say? Let me look at what he's saying, whether there is some merit in it or not. So is this construct, national construct, psychological construct of giant of Africa, which we have, that is affecting our political leaders? And that is quite unfortunate. That is why we are reacting negatively to narratives from international agencies.
In closing, Dotun, before I let you go, because Atiku Abubakar has said that we must have an independent, he made sure that he said independent inquiry, maybe because he doesn't trust that government would look at it holistically. But is this whole big brother or giant mindset not going to be the death of us?
Yes, I align with what he's saying. So, if I may add to that one, is that we celebrate mediocrity here. You see, he's talking about people in power. See, I'm talking about the journalists that you have said now. See, I used to do a lot of boxing promotions in the 80s, with all the Yinka Craig and things that I know. I knew when we were doing investigative journalism in Nigeria. But now we have the brown envelope syndrome. Are you following me? Everybody has gone to sleep. So any idiot, can call himself a journalist nowadays. I'm sorry to say that. You see, because of the brown envelope. You see, because these people that destabilize us, they control information. We thank God for social media nowadays. That's what's giving us a living.
Even though it has its negatives, though.
No, everything has, relativity is always the basis of assessments, conclusions, and judgment. Now, you see, without social media, we won't be hearing a lot of things. They will suppress. So, this is the government position. Okay, I call that editor, give him 5 million. Give this one, the writer, give him 2 million. Me and you, we're going to hear what they want us to hear. We can never hear the right thing. So that's how they killed investigative journalism. So if you go out of way to try to do that one now, some people will take you out. So it's a systemic problem in Nigeria. It's
quite unfortunate, but it's on that note I want to say thank you to my guest, Dotun Alaribibe, political analyst, and Biodo Showomi, political analyst. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here.
It's my pleasure.
All right. Well, it's time for us to take a short break and bring you comments from Nigerians on the alleged secret burial of Nigerian soldiers. And when we come back, I'll be giving you my take. Stay with us. Well, it's time for my take. Our first conversation today was about the situation of fighting insurgency. It's 10 years since Boko Haram hit the nation Nigerian. We're still fighting that insurgency and terrorism. What lessons have we learned? A 10-year-old child is big enough to go to secondary school. But have we learned any lessons? Have we put those lessons into practice to help us in the fight against insurgency? Or are we still paying lip service to this guerrilla warfare? And again, talking about our security agents, talking about the army and the Wall Street Journal report as to people being buried in graves and not letting their family members pay their last respects. Whether the army debunks this or not, it is high time that we place value on human lives in this country. Thousands of people die every single day, be it to crime, criminality, kidnapping, insurgency, the Zamfara issue of bandits, cultists, clashes in River State, Akwa Ibom, Cross River. We need to start placing value on human lives. Maybe when we do that, we will be able to deal with the issues of insecurity and not just, politicize it or try to cover up. Whatever you cover up one day will come out in the open, and then you'll have to do some form of damage control that might take a lot more than what you should have done in the first instance. So it behoves on the government of the day, the army generals, the defense headquarters, Nigerians, politicians. Let us all do what we need to do. All hands need to be on deck. If you really are indeed about serving the Nigerian people, let's start telling the truth. I know it might not be in your nature to tell the truth, but these are people you're leading, and they want to know what is happening to their fellow men and women who are out there trying to defend our borders. Equip them, give them good welfare, so that they would be gallantly guarding our borders. Else, there's going to be a lot of AWOL soldiers, and then tomorrow we paint them in a bad light. What kind of Nigeria do we want our children to come and take over from us? Think about this. It's been Plus Politics. I am Maryann Okon. Have a great day.